There's this scene towards the end of Forrest Gump around when Jenny visits Forrest at their old hometown, and it shows the two of them going into Jenny's childhood home, which is all beat up and broken down. And the two just stand there for a little bit in silence. Before Jenny picks up a rock and throws it at the house, filled with anger. She throws another one, then another, just chucking them everywhere. The doors, the walls, one breaks through the window, and she's just so emotionally distraught, she can't even bring herself to scream. Eventually, when she runs out of rocks to throw, she falls to her knees and breaks down crying. Because this is the home where she grew up with an alcoholic father that abused her physically, mentally, and emotionally. This is the home where she had to hide in the cornfields and pray to avoid being abused, and the reason why her life turned out the way it did. Forrest Gump is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it has been for a while. But on my most recent rewatch of it, this scene hit harder than it ever had in the past, because so much of the appeal of this movie comes from Forrest doing and influencing all of these world-changing events while being completely ignorant of it. Pretty much everyone who comes into his life is changed for the better. He gave Lieutenant Dan a purpose after losing his legs in Vietnam, which led to him becoming co-owner of the largest shrimping business in the world and a multi-billionaire. He inspired Elvis to dance, John Lennon to write Imagine, supported civil rights, and inspired an entire social movement just by running. He's one of the most lovable characters in film history. But on the completely other side of the spectrum is Jenny. Jenny's life couldn't have been more different from Forrest. While Forrest was headed for Vietnam, Jenny was a porn star singing in front of drunk, angry men. While Forrest was playing Olympic ping pong, Jenny was in an abusive relationship where she would regularly get black eyes. While Forrest was making a killing in the shrimping business, Jenny was dealing with heavy cocaine and heroin addictions. She'd been contemplating suicide ever since she was a little girl, praying to God to turn her into a bird and take her away from this place. The song playing in the background of that balcony scene is actually Free Bird by Leonard Skinner. Jenny's life has been a seemingly never-ending series of tragedies, so that scene where she screams and attempts to destroy her childhood home is years of childhood trauma built up and expressed into one action. This then got me thinking about Forrest and the real reason why he was able to do all of these incredible things. Sure, a lot of it is completely unrealistic coincidences, but above all else, it was the love that his mother had for him. Forrest grew up with disabilities both physically and mentally, but despite this, his mother loved and cared for him with all her heart. She instilled in him confidence, compassion, and the idea of persevering despite what others may think of you. And that's how he was able to become a college All-American, war hero, Olympian, and billionaire. And the same way that Forrest's mother was the catalyst for his accomplishments, Jenny's father was the catalyst for the hardships she dealt with in life. How you grow up as a child and the environment you're surrounded by during those formative years changes everything. Some are able to overcome those obstacles, but more often than not, they're unable to climb out of that hole dug by their past, and this is the case for Jenny. But despite all that and the incredible things he's done, Forrest cares about her more than anything else. And that's probably the biggest criticism people have on this movie, that Jenny's a horrible person. Jenny purposefully plays with Forrest's emotions, then abandons him whenever she sees fit, only coming around in the very end when he's rich and she's dying. How Forrest always cared and stood up for her, while she only viewed him as an inconvenience. But when you really look back on their interactions during their childhoods, the reasons for her abandonment are abundantly clear. Ever since she was a little girl, Jenny saw the good in Forrest and became her light in the darkest of places. She desperately tries to help and give advice to Forrest, but years of abuse only led to lessons of running away from his problems. I think the breaking point was that scene when the two are in college and Jenny attempts to form a sexual relationship with him and sees how truly innocent and visibly uncomfortable he is. In that moment, I believe she briefly saw herself become the man who molested her and put her in this position in the first place. That was the moment she felt like she had to shut off all feelings for Forrest despite how much it may hurt him. Because the thought of someone who she cares so deeply for going through the trauma she's had to endure is unbearable. When I look at the way Jenny treats Forrest, I look at it as Jenny's way of protecting himself from her. That she's come to terms with the person she is, but can't stand the thought of dragging Forrest down that hell with her. When Jenny tells Forrest that he doesn't know what love is, she's projecting her struggle onto him. Her telling Forrest to stay away from her isn't Jenny being angry at him, but pleading to him to go and achieve the things that she is unable to do. Now, are her actions morally correct? Absolutely not, but this is what she's been conditioned to believe is right. This isn't a justification for her actions, but it's important to understand the reasons why people do the things they do before we criticize them. It's so easy to look at someone like Jenny and label her as nothing more than a one-note, selfish lover who plays with Forrest as she sees fit, only to leave when another opportunity arrives. But when you really start peeling back those layers, there is so much more to her story. Because while everyone loves to laugh and cheer with Forrest's inhumanly dumbfounded luck and optimism, Jenny's stuck, dealing with her own vices and dealing with ridicule both on and off screen for being human and going through real hardships, dealing with trials and tribulations that stem all the way back to childhood. Thanks for watching.